$5 billion gone with one customs stamp. That's the sucker punch US ranchers felt when ports from Shanghai to Singapore shoved entire freighters of American beef and pork back out to sea. In the same news cycle, Canadian packers quietly inked a record deal almost as big, their red and white logo now glowing on steakhouse signs from Tokyo's Ginza to Seoul's Gangnam. Overnight, ground beef at home jumped nearly $2 a tray, bacon flirted with $10 a pound, and supermarket CEOs warned another 15% climb before Labor Day. How did Washington's tariff poker hand misfire so badly that Alberta, not Texas, is feeding half the Pacific Rim? And what does that mean for your next backyard cookout? Stick with Global Pulse, because the answer could rewrite your grocery list and your wallet. The dominoes started falling on March 27, 2023, when Tokyo quietly erased a 20-year ban on Canadian processed beef, reopening a $500 million chute to Asia's richest diners. 2 years later, Statistics Canada clocked a 13% surge in meat exports to Japan, proof the chute is now a conveyor belt. Japanese steakhouses ripped down US prime chalkboards and slapped up maple leaf menus before dinner service. What powers that belt? Turbulence south of the 49th parallel. In April, Beijing's new 125% levy on US beef forced flagship barbecue chains to ditch Texas brisket for cheaper Canadian cuts. Containers once stamped Nebraska choice now limp home half empty, while Asian cold stores overflow with red and white cartons. Lobbyists warn that if China lets hundreds of US plant licenses expire this summer, today's backlog will mutate into a full-blown supply crisis. The shockwave doesn't stop with ribs. On March 5, 2025, the US Meat Export Federation bragged that pork shipments burned through 100 million bushels of domestic soybeans last year, padding farm income by more than $1 billion. But when Beijing signaled on March 14th that licenses for nearly 1,000 US plants might lapse, Asian buyers sprinted north. Chicago traders now calculate that even a 50% loss of Chinese orders would vaporize the premium on 50 million bushels of soy and erase $3 billion from the 2025 corn harvest. Iowa co-ops already blinking at drought and high fuel costs could be staring at bins no one wants to empty. 3 dates chart the freefall. First, March 27, 2025. US export logs show just 54 metric tons of beef booked for Chinatown from more than 2,000 tons a week earlier. Second, February 28, 2025. Average ground beef prices in American cities sit 43% higher than 5 years ago. A gut shot to low-income families and school lunch programs now swapping burgers for cheaper chicken. Third, May 5, 2025. Tyson Foods admits wholesale beef is 10% pricier than a year ago, calls the market the toughest we've ever seen, and watches its stock tumble 9 points in a day. Why can't supply plug the gap? The national cattle herd is at a 74-year low after drought-driven culls, and rebuilding herds takes seasons, not quarters. Canada reads that data like GPS directions. Every metric ton China rejects is an invitation north. Manitoba packers are running double shifts. Saskatchewan rail yards are stacking refrigerator cars. Korean and Filipino importers are paying up front for next year's quota deals US feedlots once signed on cruise control. If those contracts lock before first frost, American elevators could open in October with mountains of corn and soy they can't move, forcing a fire sale that echoes the 2018 tariff crash. Ottawa isn't waiting for miracles. On March 7, 2025, it rolled out a $5 billion relief suite, including $1 billion for cold storage hubs and refrigerated rail corridors that bypass US soil entirely. Subsidized steel and extra-long freezer cars are already queuing in prairie terminals, offering Asian buyers a door-to-door route immune to Washington's next mood swing. South of the border, the response has been pink slips. Tyson shut a Kansas beef and pork plant last December. 800 jobs gone, and insiders whisper 4 more Midwest lines could go dark if China's license freeze lingers past August. Here's the gut check. 75% of Canadian beef normally moves south, yet prairie ranchers are trimming herds instead of growing them, too spooked by the threat of a 25% US border tax to invest in calves. That self-preservation leaves American meat counters exposed. Picture Christmas lights twinkling over a butcher case with zero product of USA labels. Sound far-fetched? It's the vector we just traced. While Washington fires tariff rounds at its own boot, Canada is welding bigger freezers and wiring Asia into a seamless supply chain. But the story isn't written yet. Industry veterans float one lifeline: a North America-Asia standards pact that ditches paper wars and moves protein at Canadian speed, no matter which side of the 49th parallel it starts. Pull that off, and Texas brisket might reclaim a spot on Sol's grills. Miss the window, and the maple leaf could own Pacific dinner plates for a generation. So, is America still in charge of its own dinner, or will your next steak fly south from Winnipeg? Drop your prediction in the comments. Your take might headline next week's Global Pulse.